A scream shatters the midnight silence of Blackwood Manor, where a deadly curse claims its next victim. Welcome to the Cursed Hour. Death strikes at midnight. A Poirot mystery that will grip you till the end. Grab a cup of tea, take a seat, and dive into the suspense. If you're loving the story, hit subscribe. Your support means everything to us. Chapter 1. The Invitation to Blackwood Manor. The story begins on a crisp autumn evening in 1930s England, where the leaves rustle like whispers of forgotten secrets outside the grand windows of a London apartment. Hercule Poirot, the renowned Belgian detective with his impeccably waxed moustache and sharp grey eyes, sits in his favourite armchair, sipping a tisane and pondering the latest puzzle in the newspaper. He's known for his little grey cells, those brilliant neurons that unravel the most tangled webs of crime. And on this night, he's feeling a touch restless after solving a string of minor thefts that barely challenged his intellect. Suddenly there's a knock at the door, firm, insistent, like the beat of a heart racing with urgency. His loyal friend and companion, Captain Arthur Hastings, opens the door to reveal a messenger boy, out of breath and clutching a sealed envelope. "For Monsieur Poirot," the boy gasps, handing over the missive before tipping his cap and vanishing into the twilight. Poirot, ever meticulous, examines the envelope. Heavy cream paper, embossed with a crest of intertwined thorns and a clock face frozen at midnight. He slices it open with a silver letter opener, his fingers steady as he unfolds the letter inside. The words are penned in elegant, flowing script. "Dear Monsieur Poirot, your reputation as the world's greatest detective precedes you. I, Lady Evelyn Blackwood, humbly request your presence at Blackwood Manor this weekend. A shadow hangs over my family, a curse that claims lives precisely at the stroke of midnight. 3 have fallen already, and I fear I am next. Please come at once. Your discretion is paramount. Enclosed is a train ticket for tomorrow's express." Poirot's eyes narrow as he reads, his mind already whirring like the gears of that ominous clock. A curse? Bah, Poirot does not believe in such superstitions. There is always a human hand behind the veil of the supernatural. Hastings, peering over his shoulder, exclaims, "Good heavens, Poirot! A cursed manor? Sounds like something out of a Gothic novel. Are you going?" Poirot smiles faintly, twirling his moustache. "Mon ami, where there is a curse, there is clever misdirection. And where there is misdirection, there is crime. We shall go. Pack your bags, Hastings. We depart at dawn." The next morning, the train chugs through the misty countryside, its whistle piercing the fog like a warning cry. Poirot and Hastings share a compartment, the detective quietly observing the passing landscape, while Hastings chatters about the Blackwood family. From what he's gleaned from society pages, Lady Evelyn is the widow of Lord Reginald Blackwood, a wealthy industrialist who died mysteriously 2 years ago. At midnight, of course. The family estate, Blackwood Manor, is an ancient pile in the Yorkshire moors, built in the 1600s and steeped in legends of a witch's curse from the Salem trials era, brought over by an ancestor who fled to England. The curse supposedly strikes any Blackwood who inherits the title, dooming them to die at the cursed hour unless they renounce their fortune. As the train pulls into the remote station, a sleek black Rolls-Royce awaits, driven by a stern-faced chauffeur named Grimes, his eyes shadowed under a peaked cap. "Lady Evelyn sent me, sir," he mutters, loading their luggage without a smile. The drive to the manor winds through desolate moors, where twisted trees claw at the sky and the wind howls like a banshee. Poirot notes the isolation, perfect for secrets to fester undisturbed. Upon arrival, Blackwood Manor looms like a sentinel from a bygone age. Towering stone walls covered in ivy, gargoyles leering from the eaves, and a massive oak door that creaks open to reveal a dimly lit hall. Lady Evelyn greets them herself, a striking woman in her 40s with porcelain skin, raven hair pinned in an elegant chignon, and eyes haunted by fear. She's dressed in a simple black gown, mourning perhaps not just her husband, but the weight of the family legacy. Monsieur Poirot, Captain Hastings, thank you for coming so swiftly, she says, her voice trembling slightly as she leads them into a drawing room warmed by a crackling fire. Over tea served in delicate china cups, Poirot approves of the blend. A fine Earl Grey, Lady Evelyn unfolds the tale. It started with my husband's great-uncle, Sir Harold Blackwood, who dropped dead at midnight on his 50th birthday, clutching his throat as if choked by invisible hands. Then my brother-in-law Victor last year, found in the library, his face frozen in terror, the clock striking 12. And just last month, my cousin Amelia, she was in the garden, and at the exact hour she collapsed, poisoned, they say, but no one knows how. Her hands shake as she sets down her cup. The curse dates back to 1692. An ancestor, Abigail Blackwood, was accused of witchcraft but escaped execution. She cursed her betrayers, vowing that their descendants would perish at midnight unless the family line ends. Poirot listens intently, his head tilted like a bird eyeing a worm. Madame, tell me of the household. Who resides here? Lady Evelyn lists them. Her son, young Reginald Jr., a scholarly lad of 20 studying at Oxford. Her sister-in-law, the sharp-tongued widow Beatrice Victor. The family solicitor, Mr. Harlan Croft, a bespectacled man with a penchant for ledgers. The housekeeper, Mrs. Thorne, loyal but secretive. And Grimes, the chauffeur, who's been with the family for decades. There's also Dr. Elias Thorne, the local physician, and Mrs. Thorne's brother, who certified the deaths as heart failures, except Amelia's, which was ruled accidental poisoning from garden herbs. As the sun dips low, casting long shadows across the room, Poirot probes gently. And the inheritance, madame? Who benefits if the curse claims more victims? Lady Evelyn hesitates. The estate is entailed to the male line, but if Reginald Jr. dies without heirs, it reverts to a distant cousin in America. Beatrice has her own fortune, but she's always resented my position. Hastings shifts uncomfortably, glancing at the grandfather clock in the corner, its hands inching toward evening. Dinner that night is a tense affair in the cavernous dining hall, lit by flickering candles that dance like ghosts. The guests assemble. Reginald Jr., pale and bookish, burying his nose in a volume of ancient myths. Beatrice, her lips pursed in perpetual disapproval, complaining about the draft. Mr. Croft droning on about legal matters. Mrs. Thorne serving with silent efficiency, and Dr. Thorne, jovial but watchful. Grimes lurks in the background, his eyes darting suspiciously. Poirot observes them all, noting the undercurrents, the way Beatrice glares at Lady Evelyn, how Reginald Jr. avoids eye contact with Croft, and the subtle nod between the Thorne siblings. Conversation turns to the curse, with Beatrice scoffing, "It's nonsense, but convenient for those who want to hide their sins." A chill runs through the room as the clock chimes 9, reminding everyone of the approaching midnight. After dinner, Poirot retires to his guest room, a lavish chamber with heavy velvet curtains and a 4-poster bed. But sleep eludes him. Instead, he paces, piecing together the fragments. Why invite him now? What hidden motive lurks behind Lady Evelyn's plea? As the house settles into uneasy quiet, a distant thud echoes, like a door closing softly, or perhaps footsteps in the hall. Suddenly, at precisely 11:30, a blood-curdling scream pierces the night. Poirot bolts upright, Hastings bursting in moments later. "Poirot, it's from the library!" They race downstairs, joined by the others, to find Lady Evelyn crumpled on the floor, a vial of what smells like poison clutched in her hand. The clock ticks relentlessly toward midnight. Dr. Thorne kneels, checking her pulse. She's alive, barely. It looks like an attempt on her life. Poirot's eyes gleam. Non, mon ami. Not an attempt, a staging. The game has begun. As the chapter closes on this shocking twist, the mystery deepens. setting the stage for revelations in the shadows of Blackwood Manor. Stay tuned for Chapter 2, where Poirot begins his interrogation and uncovers the first layer of deceit. Chapter 2. The first clues in the library. The air in Blackwood Manor's library is thick with the scent of old books and the metallic tang of fear. Hercule Poirot kneels beside Lady Evelyn, his sharp eyes scanning the scene as the grandfather clock's ticks echo like a heartbeat. The vial in her hand, small and glass with a faint green residue, glints under the chandelier's dim light. Hastings hovers nearby, his face pale, while the household gathers at the door. Reginald Jr. clutching his book, Beatrice's lips tight, Mr. Croft adjusting his spectacles nervously, and Mrs. Thorne standing rigid, her hands clasped. Dr. Thorne, still checking Lady Evelyn's pulse, insists she needs rest, but Poirot waves him off. Non, monsieur. First, we investigate. The truth waits for no one. Poirot rises, dusting his impeccable suit, and surveys the library. A cavernous room lined with leather-bound tomes, a heavy oak desk, and a fireplace where embers glow faintly. He notes the open window, its curtains fluttering in the night breeze, and a single rose petal on the floor, its crimson stark against the polished wood. Curieux, he murmurs, pocketing the petal with a handkerchief. He turns to the vial, sniffing it carefully. Not cyanide, too subtle. Perhaps belladonna or something rarer. We shall see. He hands it to Hastings with instructions to guard it for analysis. Addressing the group, Poirot's voice is calm but commanding. Who was with Madame Blackwood before the scream? Silence hangs heavy until Mrs. Thorne speaks, her tone clipped. I brought her tea at 11, then left her alone to read. Reginald Jr. stammers. I was in my room, studying. Beatrice snaps. I was writing letters in the parlour, alone. Croft claims he was reviewing estate papers in his study. And Dr. Thorne says he was in the village, only returning moments ago. Grimes, lingering at the edge, mutters he was in the garage polishing the car. Poirot's moustache twitches. Everyone alone, yet a scream unites you. Most convenient. He moves to the desk, where an open book lies, a dusty volume on local folklore, turned to a page about the Blackwood curse. A sentence is underlined in fresh ink. The witch's vengeance strikes at the heart of greed. Poirot's eyes narrow. Who marked this passage? No one answers, but Beatrice's fingers tighten on her shawl. He then notices a smudge of dirt on the rug near the window, too fresh for a room so meticulously kept. Bending down, he scrapes a sample into another handkerchief. The earth tells stories the tongue will not, he says softly. Lady Evelyn stirs, her eyes fluttering open. The clock. It was ticking so loudly, she whispers. Poirot kneels again, his tone gentle. Madame, did you see anyone? Hear anything unusual? She shakes her head weakly. Just the wind, and a shadow at the window. Poirot exchanges a glance with Hastings. A shadow could mean an intruder, or a clever trick to stoke fear. He instructs Dr. Thorne to take Lady Evelyn to her room, but to stay with her. No one leaves this house tonight, Poirot declares, his gaze sweeping the group. The answer lies here, in this very room. He begins a methodical search, checking behind bookshelves and under furniture. Behind a heavy curtain, he finds a hidden panel in the wall, slightly ajar. Inside is a narrow passage, barely wide enough for a person, leading somewhere deep within the manor's walls. Mon Dieu, Poirot breathes. A secret way, but for whom and why? Hastings, peering over his shoulder, whispers, Do you think someone crept in to poison her? Poirot shakes his head. Perhaps, Hastings, or perhaps this is meant to make us think so. The mind of the criminal is like a chessboard. Every move hides another. He closes the panel, marking its location in his mind, and turns back to the group, now whispering among themselves. Beatrice's sharp voice cuts through. This is absurd. You're chasing ghosts, detective. Poirot smiles faintly. Madame, I chase only truth, and it is very much alive. As the clock chimes 1, Poirot gathers everyone in the drawing room to keep them under watch. He sits by the fire, his notebook open, sketching a diagram of the library and jotting observations. The petal, the dirt, the underlined book, the passage. Each clue is a thread in a tapestry he's only beginning to weave. He overhears Reginald Jr. muttering to Croft about the estate's finances. Something about a trust fund tied to the curse's conditions. Mrs. Thorne, serving brandy to calm nerves, drops a glass when Poirot mentions the secret passage, her face paling before she recovers. The night grows colder, the manor creaking like a living thing. Poirot's mind races, piecing together motives. Is Lady Evelyn's poisoning a true attempt on her life, or a ruse to draw him here? Does the curse's legend mask a greed-driven plot? And what of the shadow at the window, real or a figment of fear? He resolves to question each suspect alone tomorrow, starting with the one whose alibi feels shakiest. As the household disperses to their rooms under Poirot's orders to lock their doors, he lingers in the library, staring at the clock. Its hands seem to mock him, counting down to the next midnight. "You will not outwit Hercule Poirot," he murmurs, his voice steady with resolve. The stage is set for deeper truths to emerge, as the detective's grey cells work tirelessly to untangle the web of Blackwood Manor. Chapter 3. Shadows of Suspicion. The dawn breaks over Blackwood Manor, casting a pale grey light through the mist that clings to the Yorkshire moors like a shroud. Hercule Poirot, ever an early riser, stands at his window, watching the fog swirl as his mind churns with the previous night's discoveries. The rose petal, the smudge of dirt, the secret passage, and the underlined passage about greed. All pieces of a puzzle that refuse to fit neatly. He adjusts his tie, his reflection in the mirror showing a man undaunted by the manor's oppressive air. Today he will peel back the layers of deceit, starting with individual interrogations to catch the flicker of a lie in each suspect's eyes. After a brisk breakfast of toast and coffee, Poirot laments the lack of a proper croissant. He gathers the household in the drawing room, its heavy drapes drawn to let in the weak morning light. The group sits stiffly. Reginald Jr. fidgets with his cufflinks. Beatrice glares at the floor. Mr. Croft clutches a leather portfolio. Mrs. Thorne pours tea with mechanical precision, and Dr. Thorne adjusts his tie, his jovial demeanour strained. Grimes stands by the door, his cap pulled low. Lady Evelyn, pale but composed, sits in an armchair, a shawl draped over her shoulders. Poirot's presence commands attention, his small stature belied by the intensity of his gaze. "Mes amis," he begins, his voice smooth as velvet. "Last night's events were no accident. Someone in this room knows more than they admit. I will speak with each of you alone, and the truth, it will emerge." He gestures to a small study off the drawing room, its door ajar. "We begin with Monsieur Reginald." The young heir pales but nods, rising to follow Poirot, while Hastings stays behind to observe the other's reactions. In the study, a cramped room with a single window and shelves of legal texts, Poirot sits behind a desk, his notebook open. Reginald Jr., barely 20, looks younger in the harsh light, his glasses slipping down his nose. "Monsieur," Poirot says gently, "tell me of your mother's fears. Did she speak of enemies?" Reginald shifts uncomfortably. "She's been anxious since father died. She mentioned the curse often, but I thought it was just grief. Last week, she said someone was watching her from the garden at night." Poirot leans forward. "And you? Where were you truly at 11 last night?" Reginald insists he was in his room, reading about Greek myths, but his eyes dart to the side. Attell Poirot notes silently. Next, Poirot calls Beatrice, who sweeps into the study with the air of a queen forced to humour a peasant. Her grey hair is pinned tightly, her black dress pristine. "This is a waste of time," she snaps, sitting ramrod straight. "I was in the parlour, as I said, writing to my solicitor about my own estate." Poirot tilts his head. "Madame, you dislike Lady Evelyn. Why?" Beatrice's lips thin. "She's weak. clinging to this cursed nonsense to avoid facing her husband's debts. The estate's bleeding money, and she refuses to sell. Poirot scribbles a note. Debts, a new thread. He presses further, asking about the underlined book. Beatrice claims ignorance, but her fingers twist a handkerchief, betraying nerves. Mr. Croft enters next, his bald head gleaming with sweat despite the cool room. He babbles about estate taxes and trusts, but Poirot cuts through the noise. Monsieur, what is this trust fund I overheard you discuss with Reginald? Croft hesitates, then explains. The Blackwood fortune is locked in a trust that only releases to a male heir who survives past 25. If Reginald Jr. dies, the money goes to a distant cousin in America, but Croft, as executor, earns a hefty fee for managing the transition. Poirot's moustache twitches, a motive perhaps for someone to hasten young Reginald's end. Croft sputters, denying any ill intent, but his hands shake as he adjusts his glasses. Mrs. Thorne is next, her apron starched and her grey bun severe. She sits stiffly, her eyes avoiding Poirot's. I served Lady Evelyn's tea and left, she repeats, her voice flat. Poirot mentions the secret passage, watching her closely. Her hands clench briefly, but she insists she knows nothing of it. The manor is old, full of odd corners. I clean what I'm told. Poirot probes about her brother, Dr. Thorne. He's a good man, always helping the village, she says defensively. Too defensive, Poirot notes, sensing a loyalty that might hide secrets. Dr. Thorne strides in, his smile forced. He confirms he was in the village, treating a sick child until 10:30, then returned to the manor. I found Evelyn collapsed, just as I said, he adds, his hands steady but his eyes flickering. Poirot asks about the poison. Belladonna, I'd wager, from the symptoms. Dilated pupils, rapid pulse. It grows wild in the garden. Poirot raises an eyebrow. Convenient, none. A doctor familiar with poisons, yet you did not test the vial. Dr. Thorne flushes, claiming he was too focused on saving Evelyn. Poirot lets him go, but a seed of doubt takes root. Finally, Grimes, the chauffeur, slouches in, his cap still low. His gruff voice claims he was in the garage, but Poirot notices mud on his boots, fresh, like the smudge in the library. You were outside? Perhaps near the window? Poirot asks. Grimes growls. I check the grounds at night. Old habit. His alibi is thin, and his hostility piques Poirot's interest. As Grimes leaves, Poirot jots down, mud, a link to the garden. With interrogations done, Poirot returns to the drawing room, where tension crackles like static. He announces he'll inspect the garden next, where the shadow was seen and belladonna might grow. As the group disperses, he catches Mrs. Thorne whispering to Dr. Thorne, their heads close. Hastings, ever loyal, joins Poirot outside, where the garden is a maze of overgrown roses and thorny hedges. Poirot finds a patch of belladonna, its dark berries gleaming, and a trampled path leading to the library window. Nearby, a cigarette butt, still fresh, lies in the dirt. Not Grimes, Poirot muses. He chews tobacco. Someone else was here. Back inside, Poirot confronts Lady Evelyn in her room, now awake, but frail. Madame, you saw a shadow. Was it familiar? She hesitates, then whispers, It looked like my husband's silhouette. But he's dead. Poirot's eyes gleam. A ghost or a masquerade? He reassures her, then retreats to the library, where he re-examines the secret passage. Tracing its path, he finds it leads to a disused wing of the manor, where dusty portraits of Blackwood ancestors stare down, their eyes accusing. As evening falls, Poirot sits by the fire, his notebook filled with sketches and questions. The trust fund, the belladonna, the cigarette, the passage, all point to a calculated mind behind the curse's facade. But whose? He overhears Beatrice arguing with Croft in the hall, her voice low. If the boy dies, we're ruined. Reginald, meanwhile, lingers in the library, reading the same folklore book, his face drawn. The clock chimes 9, each note a reminder of the approaching midnight. Poirot senses the killer is watching, waiting for his next move. He resolves to set a trap, using the curse's own myth to flush out the culprit. The criminal thinks they are clever, he tells Hastings, but they forget Hercule Poirot is cleverer. Chapter 4. The trap is set. The evening shadows stretch long across Blackwood Manor, their edges creeping over the ancient stone walls, as if conspiring with the secrets they hide. Hercule Poirot, seated in the library with a steaming cup of tisane, feels the weight of the approaching midnight. His notebook lies open, filled with meticulous notes, the belladonna in the garden, the cigarette butt, the secret passage leading to the disused wing, and Lady Evelyn's chilling claim of seeing her dead husband's silhouette. The pieces are forming a picture, but it's still blurred, like a reflection in a warped mirror. Tonight, Poirot decides, he will force the criminal's hand with a carefully laid trap. He summons Hastings to the library, where the fire casts flickering shadows on the bookshelves. "Mon ami," Poirot says, his voice low, "we must make the culprit believe their plan is succeeding. Fear makes even the cleverest slip." He outlines his strategy. He will announce to the household that he's close to identifying the poisoner, claiming to have found a crucial clue in the secret passage. This, he hopes, will provoke the guilty party into action before midnight. Hastings, wide-eyed, nods. But Poirot, what if they strike again? Poirot's moustache curls slightly. That, Hastings, is why we will be watching. At dinner, the dining hall is a tableau of tension, the chandelier's light glinting off silverware and wary eyes. Poirot stands, his small frame commanding the room. "Mesdames et messieurs, I have examined the passage and found evidence, a fingerprint perhaps, or a trace of the poison itself. By tomorrow I shall know who tried to harm Lady Evelyn." Gasps ripple through the table. Reginald Jr. drops his fork. Beatrice's hand freezes on her wineglass, and Mr. Croft's face pales. Mrs. Thorne, clearing plates, pauses mid-step, while Dr. Thorne forces a laugh, saying, "Surely, it's just the curse at work." Grimes, serving water, grunts skeptically. Lady Evelyn, frail but present, grips her napkin tightly. After dinner, Poirot instructs everyone to retire early, claiming he needs quiet to review his findings. In truth, he and Hastings take positions in the library, hidden behind a heavy curtain near the secret passage's entrance. The room is dark, save for the moonlight filtering through the window, illuminating the grandfather clock. Its hands creep toward 11. Poirot's senses are sharp. His ears are tuned to every creak of the old house. Hastings, clutching a flashlight, whispers, "Do you really have a fingerprint?" Poirot chuckles softly. "Non, mon ami." But the guilty one does not know that. At 11:15, a faint scrape echoes from the passage. Poirot's hand tightens on Hastings' arm, signaling silence. The panel slides open and a figure slips into the library, cloaked in a dark coat, moving toward the desk where Poirot left a decoy, a sealed envelope marked "Evidence." The figure hesitates, then snatches it, unaware of the detective's eyes tracking their every move. As they turn to flee, Poirot steps forward, his voice cutting through the dark. "Arrêtez. You are caught, monsieur or madame." The figure freezes, then bolts for the window, but Hastings, with surprising agility, tackles them to the ground. The hood falls back, revealing Dr. Thorne, his face contorted with panic. "This is a mistake!" he cries, clutching the envelope. Poirot, calm as ever, retrieves it and opens it to reveal blank paper. "A test, doctor, and you have failed." The household, alerted by the commotion, rushes in. Their faces a mix of shock and suspicion. Poirot orders Dr. Thorne to sit, his tone icy. "Explain, monsieur. Why seek my evidence?" Thorne stammers, claiming he wanted to protect Evelyn by checking for poison residue himself. Poirot's eyes narrow. "Yet you chose the passage, not the door. And the cigarette in the garden, yours, I presume?" Thorne denies it, but Poirot produces the butt from his pocket, its brand matching one he saw in Thorne's coat earlier. The doctor's bravado crumbles, but he insists he's no killer, only curious. Sensing more to uncover, Poirot shifts focus to the passage itself. With Hastings' flashlight, he explores its dusty confines, finding a hidden alcove with a locked box. Forcing it open, he discovers a bundle of letters, yellowed with age, addressed to "My dearest Abigail." The handwriting matches the manor's oldest records, tied to the witch's curse legend. One letter mentions a betrayal by blood, hinting at a family secret buried for centuries. Poirot tucks the letters away, his mind racing. Could the curse be a cover for an older vendetta? Back in the library, Poirot questions Dr. Thorne further, but the doctor clams up, demanding to speak to Croft. Poirot allows it, watching closely as the two exchange a glance. Furtive, almost conspiratorial. Beatrice, hovering nearby, snaps at Thorne. "You fool, meddling where you shouldn't!" Her outburst draws Poirot's attention. Is she protecting someone or deflecting blame? Reginald Jr., silent until now, mutters about the letters, saying, "I read about Abigail in the folklore book. She swore vengeance on her kin, not just betrayers." As midnight approaches, Poirot gathers everyone in the drawing room, the letters in hand. He announces, "These letters suggest the curse is no myth, but a motive rooted in family betrayal. Someone here knows more." Eyes dart. Mrs. Thorne to her brother, Croft to Beatrice, Reginald to his mother. Lady Evelyn, trembling, whispers, "My husband found those letters before he died. He said they'd ruin us." Poirot's gaze sharpens. A connection to the past murders, perhaps? The clock chimes 11:30, and Poirot senses the trap has stirred the hornet's nest. He assigns Hastings to guard Dr. Thorne, suspecting the doctor is a pawn, not the mastermind. As the group disperses, Poirot lingers, his grey cells humming. The letters point to a deeper motive, possibly tied to the trust fund or a hidden heir. He resolves to search the disused wing tomorrow, where the passage leads, suspecting it holds more relics of the Blackwood legacy. Outside, the wind howls, rattling the windows like a warning. Poirot stands by the clock, it's ticking a challenge. "The truth is close," he murmurs, "but the night is not yet done." The trap has caught one suspect, but the real killer remains in the shadows, watching. Chapter 5. Echoes from the past. The morning sun struggles to pierce the fog enveloping Blackwood Manor, casting a ghostly glow over the moors. Hercule Poirot, refreshed after a few hours of sleep, stands in the disused wing of the manor, where the secret passage led him last night. The air is stale, heavy with dust and the weight of centuries. Cobwebs drape the walls like forgotten lace, and the floorboards creak underfoot, protesting his intrusion. Hastings follows close behind, clutching a lantern, his face tense with anticipation. Poirot's mission is clear. The letters mentioning Abigail's betrayal hint at a family secret, and this abandoned wing, with its locked rooms and faded portraits, may hold the key to unmasking the killer. Poirot begins his search in a narrow corridor lined with locked doors, each bearing a rusted brass plaque with names of long-dead Blackwoods. He tests each knob, finding most sealed tight, but one door, marked Abigail Blackwood, 1692, yields with a groan when he applies a small crowbar from the manor's toolkit. Inside, the room is a time capsule, a four-poster bed with moth-eaten curtains, a vanity covered in dust, and a cracked mirror reflecting Poirot's determined face. On the vanity lies a leather-bound journal, its pages brittle but intact. Poirot opens it carefully, revealing Abigail's own handwriting, sharp and angular, recounting her escape from Salem and her vow to curse those who betrayed her, specifically her brother, who stole her inheritance to secure the Blackwood fortune. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmurs, showing the journal to Hastings. "This is no myth. Abigail's curse was personal, a vendetta against her own blood." The journal details how her brother's descendants would suffer unless the stolen wealth was returned to her rightful heirs. Poirot's grey cells spark. Could a modern Blackwood be targeting the family to fulfill this ancient grudge, or to bury it? He tucks the journal under his arm, noting a faint scent of lavender clinging to its pages. Oddly fresh for such an old relic. As they explore further, Hastings trips over a loose floorboard, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside is a small, tarnished locket, engraved with the initials AB. Opening it, Poirot finds a miniature portrait of a woman with piercing eyes, unmistakably Abigail, and a lock of dark hair. Beside it is a folded parchment, a family tree tracing the Blackwood line from 1692 to the present. One branch, marked illegitimate, ends abruptly in the 1800s, but a recent pencil note scrawls, returned. Poirot's eyes narrow. A hidden heir, perhaps, seeking their due. Back in the main house, Poirot gathers the household in the drawing room, the journal and locket on the table before him. The group is restless. Reginald Jr. avoids eye contact. Beatrice taps her foot impatiently. Mr. Croft fidgets with his pen. Mrs. Thorne pours tea with a trembling hand, and Dr. Thorne, still shaken from last night's trap, sits stiffly. Grimes lurks by the door, his expression unreadable. Lady Evelyn, stronger today, watches Poirot with hope and dread. Mes amis, Poirot begins, holding up the journal. This proves the curse is rooted in a real betrayal. Abigail's heirs may still walk among us, or someone uses her story to justify murder. He watches their faces closely. Mrs. Thorne gasps softly, her eyes flicking to the locket. "That was Abigail's," she whispers, then catches herself, claiming she saw it in old family records. Poirot presses her. "Madame, you know more of this wing than you admit. The lavender scent? Yours, perhaps?" Mrs. Thorne flushes, insisting she only cleans the manor, but Poirot notes her unease. Dr. Thorne jumps in, defending his sister. "She's loyal to the Blackwoods, always has been. Too quick," Poirot thinks, filing away the sibling bond. To test the group, Poirot reveals the family tree, pointing to the illegitimate branch. Someone here may descend from Abigail's lost line with a claim to the fortune. Beatrice scoffs. "Preposterous. We're all accounted for." But Reginald Jr. shifts uncomfortably, muttering, "Father once mentioned a distant cousin, disowned long ago." Croft sweating adds, "The trust fund only recognizes the male line." No cousin could claim it, Poirot smiles faintly. Yet someone believes they can, or wants to ensure no one does. After the meeting, Poirot and Hastings return to the disused wing, searching for more clues. In a locked wardrobe, they find a bundle of modern letters, dated within the last year, addressed to the heir. The sender is anonymous, but the content is chilling. "The Blackwoods owe you. Take what's yours before midnight," claims them all. The handwriting doesn't match Abigail's journal, but has a familiar flourish Poirot can't yet place. He pockets the letters, suspecting they were planted to mislead or to incite. As noon approaches, Poirot visits Lady Evelyn in her room, showing her the locket. She pales, recognizing it from her husband's study before his death. He was obsessed with Abigail's story, she admits. He said someone was blackmailing him, claiming to be her heir. He died the next week. Poirot's mind races. Blackmail could explain the murders, with the curse as a convenient mask. He asks about her husband's silhouette at the window. "It was so real," she whispers, "but I was dizzy from the poison. Could it have been a trick?" Poirot then confronts Croft privately, probing about the trust fund. Croft admits the estate is nearly bankrupt, with debts piling up since Lord Blackwood's death. If Reginald Jr. dies before 25, the American cousin inherits, and I get a fee to settle the accounts, he confesses, but swears he's loyal. Poirot, unconvinced, notes Croft's nervous tic, a habit of tapping his pen when lying. By afternoon, the manor buzzes with unease. Poirot overhears Beatrice arguing with Reginald Jr. in the garden, her voice sharp. "You're too weak to protect this family." Reginald storms off, clutching the folklore book. Poirot follows him to the library, where the young man confesses, "I found those modern letters months ago. I thought they were a prank, but now I'm scared. Poirot pats his shoulder. Fear, monsieur, is what the killer wants. Trust Poirot. As dusk falls, the clock's ticking grows louder in Poirot's ears. The journal, locket, and letters point to a plot woven through time, with Abigail's curse as its thread. But is the killer a forgotten heir, or someone closer, manipulating the legend for gain? Poirot decides to guard the library tonight, suspecting another attempt to cover tracks. The past speaks, he tells Hastings, but the present kills. Chapter 6. The Midnight Vigil. The moon hangs low over Blackwood Manor, its pale light filtering through the library's tall windows, casting eerie shadows across the rows of ancient books. Hercule Poirot sits in a high-backed chair near the secret passage, his eyes sharp despite the late hour. The grandfather clock looms in the corner, its relentless ticking a reminder of the cursed hour approaching. Hastings, stationed by the window, grips a poker from the fireplace, his nerves frayed but his loyalty unwavering. Poirot's plan is simple yet bold. Guard the library, where the modern letters and Abigail's journal were found, to catch the killer attempting to erase evidence or strike again. The air is thick with anticipation, every creak of the old manor amplifying the tension. Poirot's mind hums, piecing together the clues, the blackmail letters, the locket, Abigail's journal, and the bankrupt estate. He suspects the killer is using the curse to mask a motive tied to the trust fund or a hidden heir. The lavender scent on the journal nags at him. Too fresh for a relic, suggesting someone recently handled it. He whispers to Hastings, "Mon ami, stay alert." The criminal grows desperate, and desperation breeds mistakes. Hastings nods, his eyes darting to the passage's hidden panel, now marked with chalk for visibility. At 11:30, a faint rustle comes from the secret passage, like fabric brushing stone. Poirot signals Hastings to stay silent, his hand resting on a small silver whistle, ready to summon help. The panel creaks open, and a shadowed figure emerges, moving stealthily toward the desk where Poirot has left the journal and locket as bait. The figure pauses, sensing something amiss, then reaches for the journal. Poirot steps into the moonlight, his voice calm but piercing. "Bonsoir. You are early for midnight, no?" The figure spins, dropping the journal, and a glint of metal flashes. A knife. Hastings lunges, knocking the knife away, and the figure stumbles, revealing Mrs. Thorne, her face pale with fury and fear. "You meddling fool!" she hisses, struggling as Hastings pins her arms. Poirot retrieves the knife, its blade etched with a thorn pattern matching the manor's crest. "Madame Thorne, why this charade? To destroy evidence or to add another victim to the curse?" She glares, refusing to speak, her lips pressed into a thin line. Poirot notices a faint lavender scent on her apron, confirmation of his suspicion. The commotion draws the household, their footsteps thundering down the stairs. Lady Evelyn, in a dressing gown, gasps at the sight of Mrs. Thorne restrained. Reginald Jr. clutches his glasses. Beatrice mutters about scandal, and Mr. Croft hovers nervously. Dr. Thorne pushes forward, shouting, "Let my sister go. She's no criminal." Poirot raises a hand for silence. "We shall see, Doctor." But the knife suggests otherwise. He orders Hastings to secure Mrs. Thorne in the drawing room under watch, while he examines the knife. Its handle bears a smudge of garden dirt, linking it to the belladonna patch. Poirot interrogates Mrs. Thorne in the drawing room, the others lingering anxiously nearby. "Madame, the lavender on the journal, your scent. You've been in the disused wing handling Abigail's relics. Why?" She remains defiant, claiming she found the journal while cleaning and moved it to the library for safekeeping. "I meant no harm," she insists, but her trembling hands betray her. Poirot presses further, mentioning the modern letters. "Did you write them, urging an heir to kill?" Mrs. Thorne's eyes widen, but she shakes her head. "I know nothing of letters." Sensing a half-truth, Poirot shifts tactics, turning to Dr. Thorne, who stands protectively near his sister. "Doctor, your cigarette in the garden, your presence in the passage last night. Your sister covers for you, no? Dr. Thorne flushes, admitting he explored the passage out of curiosity about the curse, but denies writing letters or wielding knives. Poirot's gaze lingers on the siblings, their bond a potential shield for darker deeds. To test his theory, Poirot returns to the library, examining the journal again. A loose page, overlooked before, slips out. A map of the manor with a red X marking a room in the disused wing labelled Vault. Poirot's pulse quickens. Hastings, we must find this vault. It may hold the fortune or the motive. They navigate the passage again, reaching a heavy iron door hidden behind a tapestry. It's locked, but Poirot notices fresh scratches around the keyhole, as if someone tried to force it recently. With no key, he resolves to search the suspect's rooms tomorrow for clues to its location. Back in the drawing room, the clock strikes midnight, the chime echoing like a warning. No one dies tonight, but the tension is palpable. Beatrice, breaking the silence, accuses Mrs. Thorne. She's always been too close to this family, prying into our affairs. Mrs. Thorne snaps back. I've served loyally, unlike some who squander the Blackwood name. Poirot intervenes, his voice steady. Accusations will not help. The truth lies in the vault, and I will find it. He assigns Grimes to guard Mrs. Thorne, noting the chauffeur's reluctance but compliance. As the group disperses, Poirot catches Reginald Jr. lingering, his eyes fixed on the locket. Monsieur, Poirot asks softly, you know something of this vault? Reginald hesitates, then admits. Father mentioned a hidden room where the family kept old deeds. He never told me where. Poirot nods, filing away the clue. Alone with Hastings, Poirot reflects by the fire, the knife and map in hand. Mrs. Thorne's actions suggest involvement, but her motive is unclear. Loyalty to an heir or personal gain? The vault could hold answers, but the killer's next move looms. We are close, Hastings, Poirot says, but danger closer still. He plans to search the suspect's rooms at dawn, suspecting the key to the vault or another weapon hides among their possessions. The manor settles into an uneasy silence, the clock's hands now past midnight. Poirot remains vigilant, his grey cells working tirelessly. The killer's mask is slipping, but the final piece of the puzzle waits in the shadows. Chapter 7. Secrets in the Shadows. The first light of dawn creeps through the heavy curtains of Blackwood Manor, painting the hallways in a muted gold. Hercule Poirot, ever meticulous, is already awake, his mind sharp as he prepares to search the suspect's rooms for the key to the vault, or any clue that might unmask the killer. The map with the red X, found in Abigail's journal, burns in his thoughts, as does Mrs. Thorne's desperate grab for the journal last night. Her lavender scent, the knife with the manor's crest, and the modern blackmail letters all point to a conspiracy rooted in the Blackwood legacy. With Hastings by his side, clutching a notebook to record findings, Poirot begins his quiet investigation while the household sleeps. Unaware of his plan, he starts with Mrs. Thorne's room, a modest chamber near the servants' quarters. The space is sparse, a narrow bed, a wooden dresser, and a small mirror. Poirot's keen eyes spot a vial of lavender oil on the dresser, confirming his suspicion about the journal's scent. Under the pillow he finds a folded letter, its wax seal broken, addressed to Margaret, in the same flourish as the blackmail letters to the heir. It reads, "Meet me at the vault. The debt will be paid." Poirot's moustache twitches. "Margaret Thorne, you have secrets indeed," he murmurs, pocketing the letter. Hastings, wide-eyed, whispers, "Is she the heir?" Poirot shakes his head. "Perhaps a pawn, mon ami, but a vital one." Next, they move to Dr. Thorne's room, a cluttered space with medical books and a locked briefcase. Poirot, using a hairpin with deft precision, opens it to reveal a ledger listing payments from an unknown source, labelled only B. The sums are large, dated just before each Blackwood death. Blackmail or bribery? Poirot muses, noting the doctor's cigarette brand matches the garden butt. A photograph tucked in the ledger shows Dr. Thorne and Beatrice in a candid moment, her hand on his arm, their smiles too familiar. Aha, Poirot says softly. An alliance, perhaps more than professional. Beatrice's room, opulent with silk drapes and a mahogany vanity, yields a hidden drawer in her writing desk. Inside, Poirot finds a draft of a will, naming her as beneficiary of a substantial sum if Reginald Jr. dies before inheriting. A note in her sharp handwriting reads, "Croft must be persuaded." Poirot's eyes gleam. Greed, Hastings, is a powerful motive. Beatrice plays a deeper game. He also finds a key, small and ornate, with a thorn emblem, possibly the vault's key. He slips it into his pocket, his heart quickening. Reginald Jr.'s room is a scholar's haven, stacked with books on mythology and history. Poirot finds a notebook where Reginald has sketched the family tree, circling the illegitimate branch with question marks. A letter from his father, dated a month before his death, warns, "Beware the shadow in our bloodline. They seek what's ours." Poirot frowns, sensing Reginald knows more than he shared. A crumpled receipt for a belladonna extract, dated last week, lists the purchase from a London chemist. "Curieux," Poirot mutters. Is the boy a victim or a suspect? Mr. Croft's room, cluttered with legal documents, reveals a ledger mirroring Dr. Thorne's, with payments to B. Poirot's suspicions deepen. Beatrice, the common thread. A hidden compartment in Croft's briefcase holds a forged document, altering the trust fund to favour an unnamed party if Reginald dies. Poirot's grey cells hum. A conspiracy, Hastings, with Croft at its heart, but who pulls the strings? Grimes' sparse room offers little. A tobacco tin, a worn cap, and a photograph of him with Lord Blackwood years ago, both smiling by the Rolls-Royce. A scribbled note in the tin reads, "Keep silent, or the truth buries us all." Poirot arches an eyebrow. Loyalty or fear, Monsieur Grimes? He finds no key, but the note suggests Grimes knows the manor's darkest secrets. By mid-morning, Poirot gathers the household in the drawing room, the key and letters hidden in his coat. The air crackles with unease as Lady Evelyn, pale but resolute, joins them. "Mes amis," Poirot begins, his voice steady. "I have searched your rooms and found evidence of betrayal." He holds up the lavender-scented letter, watching Mrs. Thorne flinch. "Madame, you are linked to the vault. Speak." She stammers, claiming she received the letter anonymously, urging her to open the vault for justice. Dr. Thorne interrupts. "She's innocent. Someone's framing her." Poirot's gaze shifts to Beatrice, who avoids his eyes. He then reveals the payments to B, watching Beatrice and Croft exchange nervous glances. "Madame Beatrice, your alliance with the doctor and solicitor, explain." She scoffs. "You're grasping at straws, detective." But Croft's pen taps furiously, betraying his nerves. Poirot decides not to show the key yet, sensing the killer's desperation might lead to another move. As the group disperses, Poirot pulls Lady Evelyn aside, showing her the key. "Madame, does this open the vault?" She nods, trembling. "My husband kept it hidden. He said it held proof of Abigail's true heir." Poirot's mind races. A document in the vault could confirm the killer's identity. He resolves to open it tonight, but first he confronts Reginald privately. "Monsieur, the belladonna receipt. Yours?" Reginald admits he bought it for a botany project, unaware of its use in his mother's poisoning. Poirot believes him, but warns, "Trust no one, not even family." By afternoon, the manor buzzes with unease. Poirot overhears Dr. Thorne and Beatrice whispering in the hall, their voices tense. If he opens the vault, we're done. Poirot smiles faintly. He's rattled them. He plans a nighttime expedition to the vault, with Hastings and Grimes as witnesses, suspecting the killer will try to stop him. The clock ticks toward evening, each chime a step closer to the truth. As dusk settles, Poirot stands in the library, the key heavy in his pocket. The vault beckons, but danger lurks. The killer watches. Hastings, he says. But Poirot watches closer. The stage is set for a confrontation that will crack the case wide open. Chapter 8. The Vault of Truth. The shadows of Blackwood Manor deepen as night falls, the air thick with the promise of revelation and danger. Hercule Poirot stands in the library, the ornate key with the thorn emblem heavy in his pocket. The map from Abigail's journal with its red X marking the vault guides his plan. The lavender-scented letter, Beatrice's payments, and the forged trust fund document point to a conspiracy, but the vault holds the final piece of the puzzle, a truth that could unmask the killer. With Hastings and Grimes as reluctant witnesses, Poirot prepares to open the vault, knowing the murderer will not let it happen without a fight. The clock's hands inch toward 11, each tick a pulse of impending confrontation. Poirot leads the way through the secret passage, the air musty and cold. Hastings carries a lantern, its light flickering on the stone walls, while Grimes follows, his jaw set, a crowbar slung over his shoulder for protection. The iron door marked Vault looms ahead, its surface scarred with fresh scratches from a recent attempt to break in. Poirot inserts the key, its mechanism grinding with age, and the door swings open with a groan, revealing a small, damp chamber. Inside, a rusted chest sits on a stone pedestal, flanked by shelves of mouldy ledgers. The air smells of decay and secrets. Poirot kneels before the chest, his fingers deftly picking the lock. Inside, he finds a bundle of documents tied with a faded ribbon. The topmost is a will, dated 1693, declaring Abigail's daughter Mary as her sole heir, disowned by the Blackwood patriarch for her illegitimacy. A later document, from 1800, confirms Mary's descendants were exiled to America, but a recent note in modern ink claims, "The heir returns to claim the debt." Poirot's eyes gleam. The killer believes they are Mary's heir, or uses this to justify murder. Hastings gasps. So the curse is a lie. Poirot nods. A lie to cover greed. Before he can read further, a shadow moves at the passage's entrance. Grimes shouts, "Look out!" as a figure lunges, wielding a heavy candlestick. Poirot ducks, and Hastings swings the lantern, illuminating Beatrice, her face twisted with rage. Grimes tackles her, pinning her to the ground as the candlestick clatters away. "You'll ruin everything," she screams, struggling. Poirot, unshaken, retrieves the candlestick, noting its weight. Enough to kill if it had struck true. "Madame Beatrice, your desperation betrays you," he says coolly. The commotion draws the household, their footsteps echoing through the passage. Lady Evelyn, Reginald Jr., Mr. Croft, and Dr. Thorne crowd the vault's entrance, their faces a mix of shock and fear. Mrs. Thorne, still under guard, is brought by a servant, her eyes wide at seeing Beatrice restrained. Poirot holds up the will, his voice commanding. "This proves Abigail's heir was cheated, but it is no curse. It is a motive. Madame Beatrice, you paid Dr. Thorne and conspired with Croft. For what? The fortune." Beatrice spits. "You know nothing. The estate was mine by right." Poirot turns to Croft, who sweats profusely. "Monsieur, your forged document would redirect the trust fund." "To whom?" Croft stammers. I was forced!" He points to Beatrice, then Dr. Thorne. "They planned it." Dr. Thorne lunges forward, shouting, "Lies!" "I only wanted to protect Evelyn." But Mrs. Thorne sobs, breaking her silence. "He's lying, Monsieur Poirot. My brother and Beatrice. They wanted Reginald dead so the American cousin would inherit, splitting the fee with Croft." Poirot's grey cells whirl. He examines the documents again, finding a letter from Lord Blackwood, dated before his death, confessing he discovered Beatrice's affair with Dr. Thorne and her plan to alter the trust. "He was killed to silence him," Poirot says, his gaze locking on Beatrice. And Lady Evelyn's poisoning, a test to perfect the method for Reginald, non? Beatrice's defiance cracks, her shoulders slumping. But a noise interrupts. A low groan from the vault's corner. Poirot spins, lantern raised, revealing a hidden alcove where a man lies bound and gagged, his face bruised. It's the American cousin, Thomas Blackwood, missing for weeks. Mon Dieu! Poirot exclaims, freeing him. Thomas, weak but alive, rasps. Beatrice hired me to play the heir, then locked me here when I refused to kill. Poirot's eyes blaze. The final proof. Beatrice, you orchestrated the murders, using the curse to mask your greed. As Grimes binds Beatrice's hands, Dr. Thorne bolts for the passage, but Hastings trips him, and he falls hard. Mrs. Thorne, weeping, confesses she wrote the blackmail letters under Beatrice's orders, believing they were to scare Evelyn, not kill. Poirot nods, his voice gentle but firm. You were misled, madame, but your silence aided a murderer. The clock chimes 11:30, the sound hollow in the vault. Poirot gathers everyone in the drawing room, the documents and candlestick on the table. He lays out the plot. Beatrice, desperate to control the estate's wealth, allied with Dr. Thorne and Croft to eliminate Reginald Jr., using the curse as a cover. The vault's documents exposed her motive, an affair and a grab for power. Thomas, the supposed heir, was a pawn to deflect suspicion. Lady Evelyn, trembling, whispers, My husband. He knew. Poirot nods. He died for it, madam. As the truth settles, Reginald Jr. clutches his mother's hand, and Grimes mutters, I should have spoken sooner. Poirot pats his shoulder. You did well tonight, monsieur. The manor feels lighter, the curse's shadow lifting, but Poirot senses one final twist awaits. Chapter 9. The Final Deception. The air in Blackwood Manor feels lighter, as if the weight of centuries has begun to lift, but Hercule Poirot's sharp eyes remain vigilant. The drawing room is bathed in the soft glow of lamplight. The household gathered around a heavy oak table where the vault's documents, Beatrice's candlestick, and the thorn-etched knife lie like evidence in a courtroom. Beatrice sits, hands bound, her defiance replaced by a sullen glare. Dr. Thorne, pale and dishevelled from his failed escape, avoids her gaze. Mrs. Thorne weeps quietly, her confession still echoing, while Mr. Croft fidgets, his pen tapping nervously. Lady Evelyn and Reginald Jr. cling to each other, their faces etched with relief but haunted by betrayal. Grimes stands by the door, his stoic silence a stark contrast to the tension. Poirot, however, senses a lingering shadow, a final deception hiding in plain sight. He paces slowly, his polished shoes clicking on the hardwood floor, his mind piecing together the last threads of the mystery. Beatrice's plot to kill Reginald Jr. for the trust fund, her affair with Dr. Thorne, and the manipulation of Mrs. Thorne to write blackmail letters form a clear picture. But something nags at him. The American cousin, Thomas, now recovering in a guest room, was a pawn, not the mastermind. Yet the precision of the murders, the forged documents, and the use of Abigail's curse suggest a mind colder, more calculating than Beatrice's. Poirot stops, his moustache twitching. Mes amis, he says, his voice cutting through the room. We have unmasked a conspiracy, but one thread remains, a mastermind who used Beatrice as a marionette. He turns to Croft, whose pen freezes mid-tap. Monsieur Croft, your forged document was flawless, yet you claim coercion. Who guided your hand? Croft stammers, sweat beading on his brow. It was Beatrice. She threatened to ruin me. Poirot's eyes narrow. Non, monsieur. Your ledger shows payments to B, but also from another source. G. Who is this G? Croft's face crumples, and he glances at Grimes, who stiffens imperceptibly. Poirot pivots, facing the chauffeur. Monsieur Grimes, your silence is loud. The note in your room. Keep silent, or the truth buries us all. What truth do you hide? Grimes shifts, his cap casting a shadow over his eyes. I'm just a driver, he growls, but his voice wavers. Poirot steps closer, holding up the photograph from Grimes' room, showing him with Lord Blackwood. You were more than a driver, non? A confidant, perhaps, who knew of the vault and Abigail's heir. He reveals a final clue from the vault, a sealed letter addressed to William Grimes, dated a year before Lord Blackwood's death. It reads, "You are Mary's last descendant. The fortune is yours if the male line ends." Poirot's voice is steady. You, monsieur, are Abigail's heir, hidden in plain sight, orchestrating the curse's return. The room erupts in gasps. Lady Evelyn clutches Reginald, who stares at Grimes in disbelief. Beatrice laughs bitterly. You old fool! You used me! Grimes's jaw tightens, but he remains silent. Poirot continues, laying out his theory. Grimes, discovering his heritage, manipulated Beatrice's greed, feeding her plans to kill Reginald while planting letters to stoke the curse's fear. He used Dr. Thorne's ambition and Mrs. Thorne's loyalty, ensuring the murders pointed to a supernatural cause. The belladonna, Poirot says, was your touch, Grimes, from the garden you patrolled. The shadow Lady Evelyn saw, your silhouette, mimicking her husband to terrify her. Grimes finally speaks, his voice low and bitter. The Blackwoods stole everything from my ancestors. I only took what was mine. Poirot shakes his head. Murder, monsieur, is no justice. You killed Lord Blackwood, then others, to clear your path to the fortune. He produces the tobacco tin from Grimes's room, revealing a vial of belladonna extract hidden inside. Your final mistake, Poirot says, was keeping the poison. Dr. Thorne, desperate to deflect, shouts, he forced me to certify the deaths as natural. Mrs. Thorne sobs, I didn't know he was killing. Poirot raises a hand for silence. You were all pawns in Monsieur Grimes's game, believing you played your own. He turns to Lady Evelyn. Madam, your husband uncovered Grimes' claim and died for it. Your poisoning was his test to perfect his method. Reginald, trembling, asks, why me? Poirot replies gently, you were the last obstacle to his inheritance. As Hastings binds Grimes's hands, the chauffeur's defiance fades, his shoulders sagging under the weight of his crimes. Poirot gathers the evidence, the letters, the will, the vial, and hands them to Hastings. The police will come at dawn, he says. The curse is broken, for it was never real. Lady Evelyn weeps, thanking Poirot, while Reginald vows to honour his family's true legacy. Beatrice and Dr. Thorne, complicit but not masterminds, face their own reckoning, as does Croft for his forgeries. The clock chimes 1, its sound no longer menacing. Poirot stands by the window, gazing at the moors now clearing under the moonlight. The human heart, Hastings, he says softly, is the true cursed hour, driven by greed and vengeance. The manor feels cleansed, but Poirot's work is not done. He must ensure justice is served. Chapter 10. The Cursed Hour. Unravelled. The first rays of dawn break over Blackwood Manor, painting the moors in a soft golden light that seems to banish the shadows of the cursed hour. Hercule Poirot stands in the grand drawing room, the heart of the manor, where the household gathers one final time. The air is heavy with anticipation, the weight of truth about to settle over them like dust after a storm. On the oak table before Poirot lie the damning relics, Abigail's journal, the locket, the blackmail letters, the thorn-etched knife, the candlestick, the vial of belladonna, and the vault's documents. Beatrice sits, hands bound, her defiance replaced by a sullen glare. Dr. Thorne, pale and dishevelled from his failed escape, avoids her gaze. Mrs. Thorne, no longer restrained, stands tearfully by her brother. Mr. Croft clutches his portfolio, his nervous tics subdued. Lady Evelyn and Reginald Jr., clinging to each other, watch Poirot with weary hope. Hastings, ever loyal, stands by the detective, ready to record the final act of this deadly drama. Poirot clears his throat, his small frame commanding the room. "Mes amis," he begins, his voice steady and resonant. "The cursed hour is no more. What you believed was a witch's vengeance was a tapestry of human greed, woven with cunning and cruelty. Today, Hercule Poirot reveals the truth, so justice may prevail." He gestures to the table, his grey cells having pieced together every clue, every lie, into a coherent whole. The household leans forward, breathless, as he unveils the full story. He starts with Abigail's journal, its pages telling of her betrayal in 1692 by her brother, who stole her inheritance to build the Blackwood fortune. Her curse, Poirot says, was no spell, but a vow of vengeance against her bloodline, carried forward by her descendants. The vault's will confirmed her daughter, Mary, was disowned, her heirs exiled to America. Poirot holds up the modern note from the vault. The heir returns to claim the debt. He turns to Grimes, whose eyes burn with suppressed rage. "You, Monsieur William Grimes, are Mary's last descendant, discovered by Lord Blackwood years ago. He confided in you, but you saw opportunity, not honour." Poirot explains how Grimes, the loyal chauffeur, used his knowledge of the manor and its secrets to orchestrate the murders. "You found Abigail's journal in the disused wing, its lavender scent clinging from your handling, Madame Thorne," he says, glancing at the housekeeper, who nods, ashamed. Grimes planted the modern blackmail letters, penned by Mrs. Thorne under his coercion, to stoke fear of the curse. "You mimicked Lord Blackwood's silhouette at the window, Madame Evelyn, to terrify you," Poirot continues, "using belladonna from the garden where you patrolled. Monsieur Grimes." The vial from Grimes' tobacco tin seals his guilt as the poisoner of Lord Blackwood, Victor and Amelia, each killed at midnight to fuel the curse's myth. But Grimes needed allies. Poirot turns to Beatrice, her face pale. "Madame, your greed for the estate's wealth made you the perfect puppet. You believed Grimes's plan was yours, plotting to kill Reginald Jr., so the trust fund would pass to the American cousin, Thomas, whom you thought you controlled." He reveals the photograph of Beatrice and Dr. Thorne, their affair a leverage point Grimes exploited. "Doctor, you certified the deaths as natural, paid by Grimes and Beatrice as your ledger shows." Dr. Thorne hangs his head, admitting, "I was weak, but I didn't kill." Poirot points to Croft's forged document, redirecting the trust fund. "Monsieur Croft, you altered the trust under Grimes's threats, hoping for a share of the fortune." Croft nods, defeated. "Grimes knew my debts," he mutters. Poirot then addresses Thomas, the American cousin, now seated, still weak. "You were lured here, monsieur, to play the heir, but when you refused murder, Grimes locked you in the vault, planning to frame you as the curse's agent. Mrs. Thorne's role," Poirot explains, "was unwitting but crucial. You wrote the letters, madam, believing they were to scare, not kill. Your loyalty to your brother blinded you." She sobs, "I trusted him." Poirot's gaze softens. "Your mistake was not malice, but it cost lives." Finally, he absolves Reginald Jr., whose belladonna receipt was for a school project, and Lady Evelyn, a victim of Grimes' terror campaign. "Your husband, madame, died because he uncovered Grimes' heritage and threatened to expose him." Poirot steps forward, holding the locket with Abigail's portrait. "This manor was built on stolen wealth, and Grimes sought to reclaim it through murder, using the curse as a mask. But the truth, it always finds the light." He turns to Grimes. "You killed 3, attempted a 4th, and imprisoned a man, all for a fortune that was never yours by right." Grimes, his voice hoarse, snarls, "They deserved it, hoarding what my family lost." Poirot shakes his head. "Justice is not vengeance, monsieur." As the police arrive, summoned by a call Hastings placed at dawn, Poirot hands over the evidence. Grimes, Beatrice, Dr. Thorne and Croft are led away, their fates sealed by their own actions. Mrs. Thorne, spared arrest for her lesser role, vows to leave the manor. Lady Evelyn embraces Poirot, tears in her eyes. "You've saved us, monsieur." Reginald, now resolute, promises to restore the estate's honour, sharing its wealth with the village. Thomas, grateful, plans to return to America, free of the Blackwood curse. The clock chimes noon, its sound bright and clear. Poirot stands by the window, gazing at the moors now glowing under the rising sun. "Hastings," he says softly, "the cursed hour was but a shadow of human failing. Greed, betrayal, vengeance. The little grey cells, they triumph always." He adjusts his hat, ready to leave the manor, his work complete. The mystery is solved, the truth laid bare, and Blackwood Manor can finally heal. As we close this tale, thank you for joining us on this thrilling journey through deception and deduction. If you've enjoyed The Cursed Hour, Death Strikes at Midnight, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. Share your thoughts below. Who did you suspect? Stay tuned for more mysteries, where Poirot's brilliance will unravel the darkest secrets.